This video, I wanted to talk about the stat revamp, and in particular what happened with charisma. Now, one of the major tenets of the stat revamp was to nerf charisma outright. They didn't come out and just say, "Yeah, we're planning on nerfing charisma," but everyone kind of knew. Uh, and so, um, guest output was at 60% melee at 21% upkeep, and so there was a lot of debate, heated debate. A lot of people saying that guests should be extremely nerfed. A lot of other people saying don't touch it. There's they've been used to years and years and years of unequal in like cost to output. So it was a little bit of a contentious thing, but I think staff knew that, to the dismay of a few, and so this is the end result. So guests have had their damage. This is base behavior. Their damage lowered and upkeep costs increased. Was from 60 and 21 to 45 and 30. They also got rid of, they decoupled dexterity from pets and guests like they did everything else, finally. But they did highest of main stat. And so I think this is going to change. I think they're just going to make pets main stat only. And then they're going to make, they'll either leave this for guests or maybe they could even change it to purely charisma for guests. But pet valuation is supposed to be 20% for players without charisma, but if you don't have the accuracy, you can't exactly do that. So that's why I think that will eventually change. But for warriors and mages who like to use regular pets and guests, that's around a 19% increase in accuracy. So that's a huge, huge, huge buff. Now onto the style bonus. So they did lower the style bonus from 20 to 15, and these take effect at 155, as you can see here next to my cursor. So basically, 5% was just a straight damage buff from 45 to 50, and then they introduced a mechanic called Ferocious Strikes. It's going to be a 20% rate, double damage, so it's a 100% melee, 20% of the time, which adds 10%. So the end result is 60% melee. So the end result is it's the same overall average damage, but it's more inconsistent. And so the caveat here is that they included status effects. So status effects typically are at, so like if a guest is worth 60% melee before, status mode would pay for 30% damage to inflict 30% melee status. Well, now that the base valuation is 50, the status should be 50. The guest should be valued at 50. Therefore, the status should be at 25% valuation 80% of the time, and then 50% valuation 20% of the time. However, it's the whole thing has just been as far as this goes, it's been a clusterfuck. It's wrought with bugs. There are only a small handful of guests that players like to run that it even works, and the valuations did not even drop to 50. They're still all at 60, and so you have is everyone's valuations are based on 60, but then you do have a few ferocious strikes here and there. But I will basically showcase that really quick so you just kind of get the idea. All right, so I'm gonna use Rubzard here. It has a mode where it does a luck steal. So hopefully we can get it to work. So as you can see, the luck steal is at 83.3 luck. And it should be double that once we see the Ferocious Strike verbiage. Actually, I think this guy used to be 100 luck, so maybe the guests that are working um, for Ferocious Strike did actually have their valuations lowered to 50%. So there we go, Ferocious Strike. As you can see, it's now 166. So that's just it. The guests that currently work right now that I know of, no, they're not letting damage boosters work, but there's still some ambiguity. Sorry, um, about what constitutes as a booster. Did they want just damage boosters like Essence of Carnage, Dread Fiends, and those types have backlash for those boosters? Pride Lord, is that going to be considered a booster because of the omnipotence? Is something like the Bun Banneret because of the Death boost? Is that going to be considered a booster? So this still needs a lot of fleshing out, to be honest with you. And so the ambiguity that's there, um, there's a chance this could last several months down the road because they had to go through 800 guest files to try to globally manage this, and then it didn't end up working. So they may have to go back through them and see why. We don't really know. They may decide not to do that and just scrap Ferocious Strikes altogether. My hope is that they don't. But at the end of the day, I guess we'll see. But that's basically Charisma in a nutshell. The end result is basically a buff to BTH for warriors and mages. Overall damage is the same. Statuses are borked right now. And then upkeeps went up by 9%. That's not as big of a deal for mages because they start out at 2600 and change MP, whereas SP is a little bit more fluid. There's more things that take SP, more toggles that take SP. So like the warrior and the the ranger that uses a guest has to more carefully manage SP than they did before. And that'll become even more of an issue when the day comes that Essence Orb is nerfed. But again, that's Charisma. The stat revamp for Charisma is probably going to be an ongoing thing. I personally like running the Lucky Beast Mage. I am personally optimistic about everything. I kind of like the Ferocious Strike idea. I just hope they work it out. I don't know how others feel about everything, but I personally had wanted the Ferocious Strike idea because of all of the new mechanics have potential for item support that can enhance the ideas. So I think that that's all planned once all these bugs are worked out. But that's it for Charisma.